There was a firefight!
Hello everyone and welcome to Action RPG Build Guide Edition. Today I am ready to drop on you my updated Fire Necro Witch for Path of Exile 2. We are now pushing tier 13 and 14 maps and the build is coming along so nicely. As always, I will show you every single facet of the build. Everything is timestamped in the description below if you need to bounce around. Let's not waste any time and jump right into this. Starting off with some gameplay. Now, like I said, we have made tremendous improvements on this build. So iteration 1, people kept asking me for it. It was around, tier 3 to 6 maps. This iteration, we are now pushing juice tier 13, 14 maps. So our witch continues to get stronger and stronger. Let's find a rare enemy right there and watch this. Double cursed, smoked. Again, juiced tier 13 map. Now, we are using double curses. We're using Enfeeble and Flammability. There's a node on the passive tree that allows you to curse or to have one additional curse. Normally, you can only have one. We are using 2. So we are bringing down enemies' fire resistance and cursing them with Enfeeble, which means they do less damage. And if the enemy's doing less damage, you have more survivability. This is a double curse build. Now, the minions we are using, our Scepter gives us tier 16 skeleton warriors. Our ascendancy is giving us our Hellhound, our loyal Hellhound, and then we are using skeleton Arsonists. We have 12 of them, and we are using 1 Storm Mage. Now, the Storm Mage is an addition to this build. The community helped me with that, explaining how shock works. And shock in Path of Exile 2, enemies take 20% additional damage. So we have 1 skeleton mage, which is applying shock to enemies. That way, obviously, overall, all the minions are doing more damage to them. Now, later in this video, when I'm breaking down the skills and gear, you will see that we have moved into Mind Over Matter. So I'm not using any energy shield anymore because of Eldritch Battery, and we are just all in on mana and damage recouped as mana. And that's what's really kind of taken this build to the next level. Now, there is an amulet, supposedly, that people are using for this build, Everlasting Gaze. And what it is doing is basically giving you 10,000 extra energy shield. Apparently, it is a bug. It will be nerfed, and we have not used it. I'm never going to put out bugged build or bugged content. And if it isn't, we will explore it. But from what everybody is saying, it is for sure not working as intended. So I'm trying to ensure that I'm putting out the build in its kind of best as I can future-proof self. But we are really crushing right now, and my gear is not even close to like true endgame. So now let's break down the skills for our Fire Necro Witch, starting with Skeleton Warrior. Now, Skeleton Warrior is a free skill. It does not cost any spirit because we have it on our Scepter. Grants level 16 Skeletal Warrior. And on here, these are physical minions, so we put Brutality for more physical damage. Minions live after death with Last Grasp, 4 seconds. Life Thief to try and keep them alive, give them some leech. And then we're using Culling Strike, which is a great quality of life. Now, Culling Strike is going to kill any boss under 5% life or any rare under 10%. Moving over to summon Infernal Hound, we get this from our Ascendancy. And again, you do not need to spend spirit on this. First thing we're doing is Fire Exposure. This is the most important support skill, in my opinion, for Infernal Hound to lower enemies' fire resistance. We're then trying to make them tankier because they are a melee minion, so they are always kind of in the thick of it. They're going to do less damage, but more max life. Supported skills are going to give Searing Flame, which is going to give Magnitude and more Ignite. Strip Away, this is going to boost the exposure of the fire exposure, so they work together. Moving over to Skeleton Arsonist. Now, depending on when you're watching it, GGG has already said that there's going to be an update to Skeleton Arsonist. They will be getting a nerf, not their power, but how many you can have based upon their reservation cost or spirit cost. And I will kind of explain this. Now, for me right now, I have 12 of them. But that being said, I do not have percent to spirit on my Scepter. My scepter grants 120 spirit, and if you go look, there's multiple scepters that can give you over 200 total spirit, okay? So what I'm trying to say is that the build that you are currently seeing, you can still have 12 Arsonists, if not more, if you are geared correctly. The Arsonists are going to remain the same strength, they're just going to cost a little more. So this build is still completely viable. They're just kind of reeling it in line with the other minions, okay? Still totally fine. You could get around this nerf with some gear. First thing you want is Scatter Shot, throw 2 extra projectiles. Then Tempo, increased attack speed. Immolate, which is going to, you can't ignite, but you do more fire damage. You don't have to worry about because all your ignites will be coming from your Infernal Hound. And then +1 to minion levels. And if I get another link, it'll be +1 to fire skills. So then that'll put us to 25. Raging Spirits. Feeding Frenzy, more damage. Fire Infusion, extra fire damage. Execute, supported skills deal 40% more damage against low-life enemies. Low-life is under 35%. And last, supported skills penetrate 30% fire resistance, fire penetration. Moving down to Skeletal Storm Mage. Now, the community would really help me with this one, explaining how much shock helps our build, and it really, really does. Shocked enemies take 20% more damage. So we don't really care about the Skeletal Storm Mage's damage. What we care is that they are shocking enemies, and we only have one of them. We have Conduction, 100% more shock chance. Stormfire, shocks from supported skills do not expire on ignited enemies. Very important, because all the enemies will be ignited. Coursing Current, shocked hits from supported skills have a 50% chance to shock enemies, so it'll spread. And then the last one is Controlled Destruction. You can't crit, but your hits have more ailment damage. Moving down to Pain Offering. This is our Dread Shade for the build. Supported skills have more area. Supported skills have more area, but has a cooldown. And the skill you already have to wait 6 seconds anyway, so it's great. And then the third one is Font of Rage. You're basically going to be adding rage to all of your minions. You'll see them all red, which is going to make them do more damage. Now, for this build, I have switched it up as well, and we are now a dual curse build. We're using Flammability and Enfeeble, and I will show you this on the next section in the passive tree. Now, for Flammability, you want to actually get these as low level as possible, because that's going to lower the mana cost. Yes, the skill will not be as strong or as potent, but as you level it, the mana costs become absolutely absurd, and you really don't gain a huge advantage. So you actually want to keep these low level. I don't love it, but trust me, it's the best way to play it. We have Inspiration, cost less. Hex Bloom, curses from supported skills spread. And then we're using Heightened Curse, 25% increase effect of Flammability. Now, Flammability is going to make it where cursed enemies have less fire resistance. Enfeeble is going to make it where normal magic and rare enemies deal less damage. So it just helps give you basically some DR. And on here, we're using Spell Echo. So cast twice. We're using Persistence. Supported skills have more skill effect duration. And we're using Spell Cascade. Spell Cascade's pretty cool. So on here, it is going to echo, and then it's going to expand outwards, basically just giving you a bigger area. Last but not least, Flame Wall. Now, Flame Wall is how you are actually going to be making your Raging Spirits. And on here, cast speed, so you can cast it quicker. Fortress, so that it makes a huge circle, has a bigger area. And then we are also using Mobility. You don't have a big movement penalty when you are using it. And when you have Flame Wall up, all the projectiles from your Arsonists will travel through it, igniting them so they do more fire damage. These are the updated skills for Fire Necro. So now let's break down the massive passive tree, starting with the Ascendancy. Obviously, we are an Infernalist, so that is what you want to pick. And the first 2 points you want to get is unlock your Loyal Hellhound, great minion, and it doesn't reserve any spirit. You're then going to come to the left and get Altered Flesh and get Will, which is going to boost your spirit, which again, more spirit, more minions, more damage. Now know that this comes with a reservation in your life, which does suck, but it is well worth it as far as the trade-off. Now on here, it is really difficult to break down the passive tree, but I'm going to do my best and tell you what's important. First thing you want to do is come up here and you want to grab all of the minion nodes. Come over here, boost your mana and mana regen. Then come over here and get your revive faster and again, more maximum mana. So this is going to be your first little tree. You're then going to cut right and you're going to come up to this cluster and you want to get revive again. So minions revive faster, revive faster, revive faster. Very important. This means when they die, they pop back up, and then we're going to snag some movement speed and cast speed. Now, a lot of people do take this node, Fear of Death. This gives your minions accuracy. I have accuracy on my weapon, so I don't need Fear of Death. But if you feel like you're missing, you can take accuracy here since you are so close to the cluster. Now, you're going to cut right, and in here, you're going to have more minion revive with Restless Death. You're then going to continue up and come to this cluster here, which is going to give you Lord of Horrors. Minions have 12% reduced reservation, which means they cost less, which means you can have more. I recommend taking the right hand as well, because at the beginning, or I'm sorry, take the left hand, because in the beginning, your minions just get touched and they fall over, and this is going to give them a lot of damage reduction and life so that they live longer. On the left over here, you have this cluster. This is minion maximum life, minion elemental resistance, and minion damage. Great cluster for any army player. You are then going to start moving towards the right over here. And you're going to come this way, damage recouped as life, give you some ways to stay alive. Continue right, snag 25 to intelligence. And this is where things begin to get interesting. Now, this is a mind over matter build, all right? Which means we are using this node right here, mind over matter. All damage is taken from mana before life, 50% less mana recovery rate, which means you want as much mana and mana regen as humanly possible. So we go all in on this by also snagging this node here, Eldritch Battery, which converts all of your energy shield to mana. So on this build as well, we also have no energy shield. We do have energy shield, it's just converted over to mana. And on here, we're just buffing anywhere we can our mana regen rate and our maximum mana. That's what all these nodes are in here. But ultimately, we move from pushing tier 4, tier 5, dying at tier 6 maps, where now we're moving into tier 13, tier 14, and the sky's the limit. So, mind over matter with Eldritch Battery, and there is another way that we stay alive with this, and I'll explain it during the gear portion. Now, from a gear perspective, there's technically nothing required for this build, but obviously there's some affixes you want to target. You want as much life as possible, you want as much spirit, plus the minion level, maximum energy shield, maximum mana, and then of course spirit. Now, there is one item, again, not required, very cheap, that is good for this build, and this is the Midnight Braid Rawhide Belt. Now, the reason why is because this does something very specific. 50% of damage taken is recouped as mana, and with Mind Over Matter, all the damage comes to your mana first, which means when you take that damage, it is recouped as your mana, which keeps your mana positive, which keeps you alive. It is an awesome stat to have, but technically not required. Now, another way to get this is I actually have that affix on my amulet as well. 20% of damage taken recouped as mana, and you can get it right here on your passive tree. 20% damage taken recouped as mana. So right now on this build, I have 90% damage taken recouped as mana. That is why we are so tanky, even though we don't have energy shield. And when I say tanky, I mean, you're still going to get one shot in endgame once in a while, but this is how we pushed so far into the game once we got mana online. And currently I have 3,061 mana. So we are over 3,000 mana, which feels really, really good. Now I'll go through each item that I have so you could see what I am using. Scepter. And again, you can add over 80 spirit to this scepter if you gear it correctly. That is why I am not concerned with the nerf coming to Arsonists, because I know I'm still going to be able to keep my army size once I get my end game scepter. Helmet, level to minions, focus, Energy shield, mana, int. You saw the amulet plus the spirit. Armor plus the spirit. Ring, max life, max mana. Ring, max life, max mana. Boots, movement speed, max life, max mana. Saw the belt. And the gloves, max life, int, cold, and lightning res. That is the gear. All right, everyone, that's the build guide. What do you think of my new and improved Fire Necro for Path of Exile 2? Is there anything I missed? Is there anything I can do to take this to the next level? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, please like, share, and subscribe if you think I have earned it. Best way to support is Patreon, and check out the Discord, almost 4,500 members. We do a game giveaway every couple of weeks or a merch giveaway. It is an awesome place to hang out if you love all things action RPG. I'm done. Hopefully you were entertained or at least learned something. Aaron, out.